Something. Oh, hello, and welcome to the Virtual Cafe. I'm your host, Segilola Salami. What can I get you? Oh, hi, Tara.
Hi. How are you?
I am really frazzled. I am frazzled.
I think you need a drink. I think we should take your drink order.
Yes, what would I like? I would like something. Actually, you know what? I remember there's this drink that I've had once and once only. I went to visit a friend in Manchester, and we were at the Hilton in Manchester, and it was this lemony. No, not lemon. Melony. It was like melon with
Mm.
crushed ice, and it was really. And you know when you're really hot, and then you've got this crushed ice
Mm.
that just sort of goes down your throat, but it was with melon, and I really can't remember what it was called. But yeah, so any drink with crushed ice would do me nicely.
Sounds good.
Okay, and how about, but what would you like to drink? The little human has come to show herself here, so we
You know
can, we
what?
can.
It is really hot here, so I'll just have a peach tea. I'll have a peach iced tea.
Yeah. Okay, right, she's taking your order directly, so no need to pass it
Okay.
on. How about you, Michael?
I don't care how warm it is. I can always go for a nice cup of hot tea, preferably jasmine green or something along those lines.
Okay.
Wow. See, even the little human is saying wow, like really hot. I just think I would collapse if I had anything hot right now. It's just so hot. But yes, okay, so hot jasmine tea, you said. Now, your order is the first one because everyone who seems to come here a lot of people seems to like chai tea, and then Tara's is chamomile tea. And so
Yes,
you're the
chamomile every day.
you're the first one for jasmine tea.
Hey, all right. I mean, I like lots of teas, but that's probably at the top of the list.
It sounds
Ah.
good. It sounds really good. What's the profile? Is it like a chamomile or like an oolong? Is it delicate?
Yeah. I mean, jasmine's it's a nice you get a nice floral taste to it. Just a nice green tea.
All right. I love tea. I might have to investigate that.
Hmm.
Okay, and I might just be sounding like an idiot right now, but then when I'm thinking of jasmine, or when you say jasmine, the first thing that's coming to mind is something oriental, and I think there's like a jasmine flower, isn't there? So is it?
And that's what it is. You take the petals of a jasmine flower and infuse it with the green tea.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Hmm.
right, okay. So I'm not being completely
Nice.
stupid then, because I was just thinking that was the first thing that came to mind, but then I
No, no,
wasn't.
no. You had it right.
Okay, that's fine. So, like I was saying earlier on, I'm completely shattered. I've literally just done a marathon session and baking the most. I think it's the most amazing cake, right? It's really nice. It's at the top of the cakes that I've baked recently. So what I've done is, I think it's already obvious. An Oreo cake is my signature, is my signature cake. But I did a milk chocolate frosting, and then I crushed. Well, I didn't crush Maltesers. I cut them in half, and then used it to decorate all around the cake. So it just has this amazing look that I'm giving away to someone. And then when I was baking it, I put a little bit of the batter in a little ceramic bowl because I couldn't be bothered to use another cake bowl for only a little spoonful of cake because I wanted to be able to taste it and I wanted to share a bit with my little human as well. So my ceramic bowl is heat resistant, so I just put it in the oven with the main cake, and it came out and I thought it was quite nice. I
Mm.
didn't use my secret ingredient. I do have a secret ingredient, but I'm not going to share with you guys. But it was nice as well.
So it
But
actually has no Oreos in it. So is that a British thing, an Oreo cake, but no Oreo,
oh,
or does it?
it does have Oreo cake. It does have
Ah,
Oreos in it. So I
okay.
crushed the Oreo and put it in the batter.
Oh, nice. Okay, nice.
Yeah, so no, it definitely has Oreos in it, and I don't know, I haven't sort of processed the last podcast because I did a solo one, where I went to the Africa Right 2016 festival, that was held at the British Library, and part of my strategy, to make my attendance a successful one, I made a strawberry and Oreo cake, and I took with me to my stand. I only had a small table for 2 hours, and it was quite successful. I was able to use it to get people to come to my
Yeah,
stand.
I was
I was like,
I was for me.
Yes, it was quite amazing, and there wasn't really food as well. So most of the other people who had stalls, they literally just came. They were like hungry, and I was like, yes, please. So hopefully that will make people remember me.
Yeah,
You know,
literally sweeten the deal.
yes. So that was quite good. But I was like really exhausted. But yes. Anywho, so I'm just going to let you guys do the talking today because I'm just really shattered, right? And so you're gonna just
Okay.
pretend. You're gonna pretend like I'm not here, right? And you and Michael are just having a conversation. So just ignore me. And then when you're done having your conversation, you can go, "Oh, hi, Segilola, where's our drink?" That sort of thing.
Okay. Hi, Michael.
Hey, how's it going?
It's good. Good. How are you
It
doing?
seems I've gained another podcast to run.
Oh my goodness. So, do you have your own podcast?
I do. I run it's called the Introverted Indie Author Podcast.
Oh, I love it. Do tell. Do tell.
It's pretty similar in a setup to this one where I just have on another author of some sort, and we just kind of have a conversation. I don't usually have a topic off the top of my
Mm-hmm.
head. We start with what they've worked on, how they do things. Then we usually end up severely off topic someplace
Right.
else, and that's just
That's
kind
the
of how it
way it
goes.
should be.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, if writers can't go off topic, who will?
yeah. That's what I figured. And I'm not any kind of professional, so I was just like, let's just get together with another writer and just talk
I
and
love
geek
it.
out about different things.
I really like the name of your podcast. In fact, this was about a month ago. Um, a couple of us indies got into a pretty good conversation about how hard it is to promote as an indie when you are introverted or naturally shy. It adds a layer of challenge that it's hard for some of us to overcome.
No,
So
yeah,
I
yeah, for
like
sure.
the
I mean,
name
I
of
think marketing and promoting is difficult no matter what, just based on the landscape of where India is right now. But yeah, for those of us who, especially if we weren't prepared going into it, I would much prefer to just write my books, publish them, and then look the other way and hope something
exactly.
happens. Yeah, and I think that was part of the influence that nudged me towards making my podcast, just to try to give some people some voice that might not have it otherwise. Not that I limit my guests to people who are introverts. This is kind of the name I came up with. I think it best sums up how I see the world.
I love it. So you just kind of jumped into the deep end. So
Oh yeah,
what's your
that's how I do most things. I jump in and I figure it out as I go.
so what's the takeaway? What are us shy guys supposed to do here? What seems to be the common thread as far as advice from authors who either are a little more extroverted or they're introverted, but they've kind of gotten past it in order to promote their titles.
I think even independent of the whole introvert extrovert conversation, even looking away from personalities of the writers, I think the big thing that I've kind of come away with is just building relationships with other authors, other writers, readers, networking, um, getting and putting a little bit more attention on kind of the personal side of things as opposed
Hmm.
to the promotional buy my books side of things. Because I mean,
Exactly.
no one wants to hear that or put up with that. I, as a reader, don't. I'm much more receptive to someone shooting me a message, just wanting to talk shop, as it were, than I am
Mhm.
scrolling through pages and pages of people just posting their book on whatever forum there is. So I think there's a lot to be said about just chasing down the personal connection. And
Exactly.
regardless, even for us, introverts, I'm not. I mean, I think the internet helps a lot. It's a lot easier to go about building relationships through forums, messaging, social media, than it is to walk up to somebody on the street, which would terrify me to no end.
Right.
So I think,
Exactly.
yeah, so I think technology is a big thing for us. I say us as kind of the shyer ones
Hmm.
to kind of help facilitate that to build the relationships because I mean you got to get people to care about what you're doing, interested in it and invested.
Right. And I mean those are the authors that we respond to as readers. So it's not going to be any different for us as
Yeah.
writers.
Yeah, I have a number of indie writers that I follow and I read their stuff because I eventually stumbled across them over, say, Twitter or something like that. But they weren't posting stuff about buying my books. I don't think they ever did that. They were just, being witty, just talking about their process, sharing the heartaches, sharing the successes. And you felt like you almost got to know them a little bit. You saw that
Yeah.
there was a person behind, the book cover. And I
Right.
think that's a great avenue to try to get into.
I know, especially on Goodreads, you come in contact with so many other indie authors, and there's this, great web of camaraderie. And I know personally, I can have a conversation with another writer, and just by the way they interact with me on Goodreads, or the way they comment on or follow a thread, I can tell their writing style almost just by their casual communication. And sure enough, almost every single time I become curious and I go to check out their books, and I'm usually never disappointed. So, again, just those personal relationships, it's a great open door to not only make friends, but to discover, great new titles that otherwise I would not have.
Yeah, no, and for sure. And I think there's something to be said too for the indie community as a whole, at least at this point, being incredibly receptive, incredibly friendly, especially since I think the stigma for the internet nowadays is just it's like it's full of trolls and it's really negative and nasty. But
Right.
somehow I think our little community that we've kind of carved out for ourselves has kind of avoided that up until this point.
Yes.
I mean, you'll find negative people no matter where you look, but in my experience, it's been pretty few and far between.
Mm-hmm.
And some of this, I think we just need to recognize that other writers, other indie authors, we're not competitors, we're not adversaries. I mean, we're all playing the same game.
Absolutely.
Just because someone
Absolutely.
buys my book doesn't mean they're not going to buy your book too. Um,
Mm-hmm. And everyone's
and,
so free with their advice and suggestions. I love it. I really do.
yeah, and I think and just being out there as a reader too, being active as a reader, giving input, throwing out reviews, supporting other writers. I've read a lot of stuff because um, the author showed interest in what I was working on, and vice
Mm-hmm.
versa.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little bit of a give and take. You can't just be out there expecting everyone to just, look at your stuff and then you just kind of do nothing else.
Right. Agree. Oh, it's definitely it's an active situation. I have a question for you because um, as far as, like you said, making those important connections and building those relationships, I'm starting to think that it may be more beneficial or more effective or productive to try to find readers where they live, or try to find your audience where they live, as opposed to, the effort of attracting readers to your platform,
Sure.
or, and it's certainly harder to do it the other way, but I really think that's the only way. I mean, at the end of the day, there are more of them than there are of us. And you don't want to be sort of, closeted off in this nurturing, but ultimately not necessarily symbiotic relationship with other writers. I think it goes back to just being willing to step out there and just, build those connections with your readers.
And I think one of the beauties of this kind of writing world that we're in, unlike other industries, though, we're most of us are both writers and readers, so we're both
Mhm.
producers and consumers. Where in
Right.
other industries, that's just not how it is. And so
Hmm.
I think we're in that interesting situation where we can help each other back and forth.
Agree. I agree.
Okay, so perfectly timed back from my nap. Can you hear me?
Oh, sure.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
well, virtual nap. And I sort of heard the back end of the things that you guys were saying, and it was just quite interesting because I recently found out about an author, and it was a roundabout way that I got to find out about him. So I get this newsletter from a website called Publish and Push, and they were telling me they sent an email regards to a best-selling author who had done, and I think it's called an AMA or an AMA via Reddit, where he says, I am an author, ask me anything. I think that's what it is, ask me anything, something like that. Anyways, so it was quite interesting, and I really feel bad, I can't remember this author's name. And he's a best-selling author, and one of the things that he was saying, just because why I mentioning this, because Tara, you said there are more of them than there are of us, and something
Right.
that he put in, because he had loads of questions about what he has done, and
Hmm.
the thing that I took away from the little bit that I read, I didn't read all of it because time is a premium, was where he said that he writes to his audience. Now, I'm sure you remember both of us, we had this conversation on Goodreads, where you
Yes.
were asking me, something similar. But the way he said it was something that I thought, oh, wow, actually, that's quite profound. That actually makes sense. So he says, right, that he's got ideas of what he wants to write. Can you still hear me? Because my thing is
Yes. Yeah, we can hear you.
okay. It's just the little human keeps pressing buttons sometimes, and I can never be. You have to keep just checking to make sure that she's not pressed something, and I'm just yapping away without anyone hearing me. Yeah. But basically, what he was saying, is that he writes according to his audience. So, for instance, let's say he has this idea that he wants to write. So it's not that he's writing to an audience that he has no interest in, but he's got an idea of how he wants to write, or something that he wants to write. Then he thinks to himself, right, okay, where would this have the biggest audience? So how can I explain it? So let's say he says that fiction is the biggest, is the hardest one to sell, because if you're going to do like a how-to, for instance, there are loads of people who are looking for how-tos. So that is sort of quite an easier-ish, quote unquote, to sell. Whereas if you want to then do fiction, you've then got to think of your audience. So I think if you also look at a lot of the stats that there are, you will find that romance sells, erotica sells, fantasy
Hmm.
sells, more so, and then the numbers, I think in most of the research that I've seen, romance sells more while sells all the other genres. So if you're then going to be going to write, say, I don't know, crime, then you need to be able to already know where, your audience already stays. And what sort of crime do they like, you know, reading? Where are they, so those sort of things. Am I making sense, or am I still standing a bit frazzled?
Right. I think I think you're talking about, knowing what your readers want.
Yes.
That's what
So
it sounds
basically,
like to
that's
me.
how he's been able to make himself successful. Because whilst he already has a story that he wants to tell, he's been able to customize it to fit in with a specific audience. And when I started, I think I made that mistake where I was thinking, oh my god, I thought my books were so fabulous that everybody would want to read it. And
Right.
yes, and everybody, as an author, we would like to think that we're vested in and everyone should want to read our books and whatnot. But if you're doing that, then you're not really targeting, and you're setting yourself up more for disappointment. Whereas if you target to a specific audience, I think that would make it. And then I know as you guys are introverted, it's also quite easy because using technology helps. How am I going to put it? Just
To
be
narrow it
yes,
down.
and make it not so as daunting.
Right.
But yes, you guys do continue, and I've just continued my virtual nap.
No.
I kind of I get what you were saying about tailoring, how you structure your book or the genre you write into your audience, and I think from a business standpoint that makes a lot of sense.
Hmm.
But as far as I'm concerned, I look at writing purely as an art form, and ultimately I write for myself because it's something I enjoy, something, it sounds cliche, but something I have to do. And I think if you can kind of balance the art and business side of it, I think you're in a good spot. But I think it can be a dangerous thing to worry too much about tweaking and changing your writing to appeal to a broader audience or a wider reaching, just to get increased sales, because ultimately that's going to end up with maybe a finished product that you just don't care too much about, or that you weren't quite invested in because it didn't mean too much to you. I know, like I said, you mentioned romance, And I mean, romance does make up roughly half or even more of the current book market. I mean, it is massive. And I could certainly look at that and say, well, that's where the money is, especially if you're going to put out novels every couple of months, is kind of how they do things. But if I wrote a romance novel, I could probably do it.
There'd be a lot of belching in it.
Yeah, it may not be yeah, it made it very, very good. I wouldn't care about it. It wouldn't be something I was invested in, and ultimately, I think it would kill my creative side. Whereas if I'm chasing down, really what I want to write and telling the stories that mean something to me, and then try to worry about a little bit later on finding the right audience. I mean, for me, I think that's a better way to go about it. But I mean, that's just kind of how I see writing as a whole.
Well,
I
think a really good example of kind of like the middle ground between Segilola's point and your point, Michael, is actually one of my favorite writers, Michael J. Sullivan. He's the author of the Rhaenyra series, the Rhaenyra Chronicles. And I do think it's kind of a great middle ground because he writes within his genre, which is fantasy, but he also very much is attuned to what his readership wants. In fact, before he proceeds with a full-length novel, he'll often write a novella and offer it for free, on his website and etc. to kind of get a sense of whether or not his readers feel like it fits them. They have a very mutually beneficial relationship, and there have been some of his novellas that did well, but obviously, and there are some that his readership just absolutely fell in love with, and they said we need more of this. So that's an example of an author who writes just for his readers, and that would let him know that, okay, it's time to turn this into a full-length novel or another series. So I think there's some pretty good middle ground there.
I think that's a decent way to go about it. So it sounds like he's still, maybe just throwing out a couple different things that he would like to pursue and then just picking the one that's most popular. But I think trying to chase the market is a dangerous game.
Yes.
Yeah. So just to add it, I think what the author who I was sort of trying to quote, what he was saying though, because I think he was Michael, you were saying that if you write where you don't have an interest, whereas what he's saying is, I think is also what Tara was saying about Michael Sullivan, is more or less the same thing, that if you already have a story to tell, so not just writing because you think, oh, I'm going to make money out of it, but you already have a story to tell, and then you now think, okay, right, I have this story to tell, what would be the best way to put it forward? And again, different people write for different reasons, and if you just write it, so I guess, again, as an author, everyone needs to determine what is success for them. So if it's just putting your best foot forward and just putting it and making it out there available, then that's great. But with this other author that I can't remember his name, and I'm really, really bad about it, he's a best-selling author, and he uses his writing as a source of income. He said last year, he made $65,000 out of his writing alone, just following that format. And he's hoping that by the end of this year, he will triple it. So he's basically trying to say that that's what he does as, to make his, to give him a source of income. Because I think why Publishing Push sent me that email was basically to say, there are some authors who actually do make a living from their book. If making a living from your book is not your interest, then that's perfectly fine. But if you wanted to, then this is an author who's willing to share what he has done, and that was why they sent, the link across, and that was part of his strategy, for him to be able to make an income. And that was actually quite fascinating. Wow, £65,000, not pounds, dollars, because he's in America. From his writing, that's quite a lot, because if you speak to some authors, they will tell you they barely make $10 or £10 a month. So for someone who has been able to do that, I thought it was quite remarkable.
If you remember who the author is, maybe you can include it in the comment section.
Okay, you know what? I'm going to do one, and I'm going to go on Reddit now. So yes, you guys continue, and I'll go and see if I can find him.
I'm curious. But
um, okay, give me a second. So yes, do carry on. I'll open Reddit.
No, I totally get what you're saying, and I think your goal definitely will change how you go about things. I mean, if
yeah,
writing for you is just your income and that's what you need to do to put food on your table, pay your rent, then yeah, you're gonna go about it a little bit differently. Whereas if it's just merely creative expression for you, then yeah, you're gonna see it maybe in a slightly opposite direction.
there's definitely a range. I remember reading a blog entry from an author who challenged herself to write. You're not going to believe this. She set a personal challenge for herself to write 10 books in a month in 30 days. And first of all, I can so admire that kind of output. And I can equally tell you that I'm not sure I want to read any of those books.
They're probably also pretty short too, I'm sure.
Yeah. So again, I think, like you said, it depends on what you're going for, what you're shooting for. Um, I just love that as indies, we have the choice lies with us. We get to decide how we want to go about it. I know
Yeah.
personally, I'm going to be one of those dorks that's working on a fiction book for like 2 or 3 years, just can't quite, let it go. But it's just the process, like you said, just having that story to tell and hoping at the end of the day that it finds a home with readers.
Well, and the beauty of being an indie is the freedom to change your tactics if you want halfway through. You know, to change genres if you choose to change how you market, to change the frequency of how much you write, or how little you write, or if you just stop altogether. I mean, there's a lot to say about the freedom that we have, and it
Right.
is. I mean, it's a learning process. You kind of gotta, adapt as you go to try to fit what you're looking for. I
Right.
know for myself, like I said, I'm kind of in the camp where I started writing because just as a source of creative expression, because I wanted to create these stories, I wanted to write the books, and then the kind of publishing business side of it, is coming later. Um, so,
Mm.
but someone else may be looking at it completely backwards. But if down the road things change for me, where I have to look at it a little bit more as a business and it becomes,
Mhm.
full time or part time for me, then yeah, I think my strategies are probably going to change a little bit. I might put a little bit more stock in how my readers are reacting and not
Right.
spending time on stories that don't have as wide an appeal.
Right. And
Mm,
that and again, you're just that ability to tailor it to your current need. That's just, you can't really put a price on that. It's amazing. And I always thought that my strategy would be based on whether I was working on fiction or nonfiction, because my first book, of course, is nonfiction. But the more I write, the more I realize that I'm just not, I don't know if I'm capable of, maybe I'm just too old to shift my paradigms, but, um, and again, I do try to keep my ear to the ground, but if I'm not writing about something that I really love, I just can't do it. It just doesn't really come out right. But
Yeah,
again, I don't think I'm the most prolific writer. So I don't think that's ever going to be a problem for me. I'm kind of a slow horse. I like to craft my stories.
well, and beauty is you have that right to do it however you choose to. I
Mm.
mean, there are, and it's all individual. I mean, there are, traditional authors out there who really look at it as just a job, a chore, and they just churn out stuff that maybe they don't have a whole lot of passion for. But it pays the bills, and that's how they see it. Whereas
Mm.
others, write maybe stuff that has a really narrow appeal, but is really important to them. That's just not going to bring in, the dollars, but it suits their need to, you know, get their point across, I guess. So,
Well, of
um,
course, all of us are going to write what we love and make our readers happy and just make tons of money. So, We're all going to achieve the
Yeah, I think
trifecta.
that's on the list of misperceptions about writing. I think that might be number one.
And yeah, you're even with the explosion of indie publishing and just I mean digital publishing and DIY publishing and print on demand is just everywhere. And you're right, those myths, they still persist. They still persist.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm still trying to. It's just one of those ones where so many posts go on Reddit that everything just gets lost. Sorry. I'll probably have to check later. It's like I think his name was John something, and I'm just really, really ashamed that I can't remember his name.
Well, if that's okay. If you come across it later, just, post it on your blog or on YouTube.
Yes.
No worry, no worries.
So bad, but yes. Anyway, so things do get lost in the world of Reddit.
I'm not as familiar with Reddit as I think I should be. I mean, I think I was somewhat familiar with it a few years ago, but
Hmm.
it was kind of I mean, there were so many rabbit holes to go down. I think I just kind of said, all right, I'll deal with this later. And I love the clean platform that Goodreads provides. But there's so many platforms out there online to explore. I'm sure I'll get to all of them eventually.
Well, I mean, I'm only recently started, or I've only recently started using Reddit myself. When I first started, I found it extremely frustrating. Especially their Autobots. They're like annihilators. You post something and it's like, oh, this is an Autobot. We have taken it out in dot 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 dot. And you're like, oh my god, what exactly am I doing wrong?
Wow.
Um, so it was not the easiest platform to use that I found. But be that as it may. I'm not going to sort of I think slowly I'm getting my head around it. I don't spend anywhere as much time on Reddit. I think the reason I even went there recently was just because I got this email about it, and I'm just feeling so on plan. And I didn't plan on talking about this guy. It just sort of came off.
Right.
But I did send him an email, a message on Reddit asking if he would come on my podcast. But then he's going hiking. And the annoying thing, well, not annoying thing, is that he doesn't use his proper name. He uses a nickname on his thing. So I know what his nickname is on Reddit. I just don't know what his real name.
Right. Well, he may be your next guest, and then we can all see what he has to say.
Yes. So I thought when I read it, it sort of reminded me of what's his name now? Um, Evan Pickering. He reminded me of Evan
Oh,
Pickering.
right. Oh, Evan. Evan's great.
Yeah.
He's great.
So that was who it reminded me of, and I thought, oh, okay, that'll be great to have him on there. And then Reddit doesn't really let you do profiles. But
Mhm.
anywho, be that as it may. Have you read Michael's book? I think he's got a new book out, hasn't he?
Yeah. Um, yes,
Did you?
Michael Sanders or Michael
This
J.
this is
Sanders
my
or Michael J.
this
Oh,
one is Michael we're talking to.
there's a lot of Michael J's.
Yes. Okay, actually, before we even go, what is it about Americans and initials? It's like DL and RL and Michael J. And what is the initial thing?
Well,
I never got that.
it depends. For some people, it's just a way to kind of stand out because unless your name is very unusual, there's going to be 1,000 other people with your name, and then for some people, it's a way to achieve sort of like a gender neutrality. Um, E.L. Doctorow is, of course, a male, but E.L. James is a female. And sometimes you really don't want to put that out there. You just want people to get into your work. I mean, there's probably 1,000 reasons. And sometimes it just sounds really nice.
For sure. And
So,
I mean, as someone who uses his middle initial, I do it for two reasons. The first is to just differentiate myself from other people who may have similar or even the same name.
Mm-hmm.
Even my last name is not that unusual. Um, and the second reason was just because, for me personally, my middle name is my father's first name. So I think there's a little bit of um, pride there. So I just wanted to include that, as
Right.
well. But
Oh, I
yeah, I mean,
love.
a lot of people do it to achieve, yeah, that. So you're not sure of their gender, as well as some of it's just for feel. I've talked with
Mm-hmm.
some people who use an entire pen name. It's just for feel or to separate that work from some other thing that they're involved with, with their real name. So,
Oh, I love the use of pen names. I think it's wonderful, and I think it can, and if you write in different genres, it can, as a writer, it can also just put you, in that mindset to write in that style.
Mm,
Almost like an alter ego. It's pretty cool, pretty awesome. But yes, I love your book. Um, I don't even know where to begin. I think just to sum it up, and I'm not gonna, give away
What's
any
the book
spoilers,
called? What's the book called, first of all?
Michael.
yeah.
What's your book called?
Oh, my book. I have two out right now. My first is called The Mighty. It's the first book one of the Druid's Guise, and my most recent book is called The Girl with Red Hair, which is book one of an entirely different series.
Oh, okay. I read The Mighty. Um,
That's
and
the
what I
Druid one.
yes. hmm Um, what I loved about it was just the everydayness of Wyatt. Wyatt was, that kid I went to school with. At different points, Wyatt, was the kid I used to be. To say he was accessible is probably the understatement of the year. And I think it's so important for young adult readers to be able to connect, with a hero or a heroine that, well, obviously that they, can emulate, but that there's some sense of connection that you don't have to really build up to. From page one, you need to have a sense of, okay, I have a lot more in common with this person than I would have, expected, because they're going to do something brave or heroic eventually. Um, but I think that as a reader, you can make that leap with the main characters, when your journey sort of parallels their own. And I think too many young adult novels, they tend to have the main characters almost already there. I mean, I've read so many books where the main character is 16 or 17, facing these extraordinary, you know, obstacles, and they're in these extraordinary situations, and they're pretty cool, they're pretty collected, and they pretty much know what to do while delivering these, stinging little one-liners. And while I get it, in one sense, it's escapism and it's sort of an aspirational take. I can't really say that I connect with that. I certainly wasn't that kind of teenager. So, having said that, I loved Wyatt for that reason. I really did. I loved it, and he was just so well written. I feel like you were like channeling somebody's youth.
Well, to give a little background on Wyatt and the story in general, when I graduated college with a degree in child and family studies, and then I spent 2 years working in a treatment center for quote unquote disturbed youth, which is the basis of what in the book is called the Shepherd's Crook, was the name of the center, and is based almost cookie cutter on the facility I worked at. And then when I was there, one of the kids that I interacted with that just kind of impacted me probably the most was a kid who was the basis for Wyatt. Largely because I think he was also very similar to myself. I mean, all the kids there had gone through some sort of trauma, some sort of abuse, some sort of horrific things that would give you nightmares, and they all dealt with it in a very different way. I mean, some you could expect would be, violent, aggressive. Some of them are overly sexualized, and then there was the kid that I based Wyatt on, who chose to kind of deal with his circumstance by retreating into this make-believe fantasy world,
Mm.
where he spent a lot of time basically just kind of almost like role-playing, pretending he was a wizard or pretending he was a knight. And I saw a lot of myself in that. And at
Mm.
some point, I kept asking myself, you know, what is it like in his head? I mean, what is going on? And that's kind of where the genesis of the story was. Because I mean, in The Mighty, it's about that kid who's sent to a treatment center, and he really can't remember. I mean, as far as he's concerned, he doesn't think he should be there. That's largely just because he doesn't know what's happened to him, and
Almost like Don Quixote.
he finds a way into a fantasy world, not just with his imagination, but potentially an actual Chronicles of Narnia type transition.
Right.
And it's just about him trying to grapple with stuff in his past and his circumstance, and yeah, I mean, he definitely doesn't have it all together.
Right.
He thinks he does, but he certainly doesn't, and I think that's a little bit about that's really about what his journey is about. Realizing that he doesn't really know what's going on, and that he's not as confident, or he's maybe a little too overconfident, and he can't just tackle any problem he gets to, and kind of accepting failure, as well as accepting stuff that's happened to him in the past. So.
And you find yourself, you just love taking that journey with him. And I remember in particular when you saw he was beginning to kind of untangle, the threads of what it means to feel empathy for someone, or to look, from the inside out to what's going on with other people. And Catherine, come here, sweetie. Come on.
Is that your little baby girl?
Yes, Catherine. Usually she's so awesome. She's so well behaved, but she's like, you know what, Mommy, I've had enough. Again, I don't want to give away anything. I want everyone to read the book. But when they were on the barge, after the barge began to come apart, and they were under arrow fire, they were under attack from the I want to call them the whites, but
the Regents, the fallen Regents, yeah.
And for one split second, he thought that they had been hit, maybe fatally hit by the barrage of arrows. And I thought it was so interesting, not that he was concerned or worried, but that in that split second he had the presence to realize, hey, I really care about what's happening to these guys. I thought that was very deft, and I thought it was brilliant, and it kind of kept my ear to the ground after that to see more of that that development within the main character, because you do already know that there's some things going on with him, and little things like that end up being these little gems that you've kind of sprinkled throughout the book, and I really responded to that.
I mean, I appreciate that more than anything. I mean, it's the world to me that you kind of picked up on some things, and yeah, I mean, that's definitely one of Wyatt's journeys, being able to care about people other than himself and to look outside himself. Something that kind of he can get pieces, will kind of come and go as he kind of learns that, and that a big part of it is also that his actions have consequences, that he can affect other people.
Yes. Yes, and believe it or not, I mean, that really, I honestly feel like that's sort of missing. I really feel like that's missing in a lot of young adult fiction these days, because this is the generation that gets a trophy for showing up. Definitely the special snowflake generation, and I'm not sure that we won't eventually regret teaching young people to be so absolutely self-centered, and I think books like yours, I mean, it seems obvious that that's what the point of a really good book should be, but I think when I read your book, it had such a different feel to it that I found myself paying more attention, and little things would jump out, and I was like, you know what, this is kind of cool. This is taking me down a different path. Again, I don't know. I think that's the direction we need to be going in. So it's sort of a communal or village approach to how we interact with people.
If you were going to say, sorry, go on, Michael.
No, I was going to say, I appreciate what she's saying, and I'll full disclosure. I mean, I don't even really read young adult. And when I wrote the book, I didn't write for a specific genre. I just wrote the book, and even now, I will kind of present it as kind of young adult, ish. I kind of will be as far as I can go without trying to put labels on it. But like I said before, I mean, I just wrote the story. I told the story that I needed to tell about the character that I needed to speak to.
And see, that's a perfect argument for, writing your story, and let everyone else categorize it, but just write your story. So it definitely, was young adult, but again, and it makes sense now that you're saying you didn't necessarily write it that way, you just wrote your story. So that otherness is what is informing my sense of, there's something different going on here, something that makes it stand out. So
Yeah,
it's
and some of that's just, in my writing process, I don't ever want to put myself in a box. I think of all the genres, young adult is one that can be a little bit more constraining, where I would have been worried about language use. I would have been worried about content. I would have been worried about bringing up issues of abuse or whatnot.
right.
And I didn't want that. I just figured it's something I definitely wrestled with for a while and talked with some friends about, like, because I know it has the young adult feel. The main character, he is 15. It is about a lot of issues unique to 15-year-olds, but there's a lot of stuff I want to be able to get into, in this book and in future books that I wouldn't say are really, young adult appropriate even in some situations. So I never wanted
Right.
to, feel restricted. And so I just kind of write a book, and when the dust settles, then I try to figure out what to call it.
Well, I hope everyone reads it, but I hope young adults definitely read it. I'm not necessarily sure that coddling young adult readers, or I hate to say pandering to, because certainly not all, YA novels do, but I think more books like yours definitely, there's a lot to recommend them for all readers, but especially young readers.
Cool, cool. So now, if you were going to pick up something that you weren't too particularly fond of, and just because, and the reason why I do this all the time is just because we always like to talk about the good things, and it's always, I feel that there's always room for improvement. So what would you say you didn't particularly like the look of or the sound of in the book, Tara?
Well, there was one particular scene where there was one scene where a certain young lady in the book, she's very dark, and Wyatt, he has a crush on her, and at one point she crosses her long legs, and he's staring at her legs, and he says, "How could something so dark be so beautiful?" And I was like, excuse me. I beg your pardon. But yeah, but that was, I said, oh my gosh, I can't wait to tell Michael. I can't wait to call Michael out on the show.
Nice. No, I deserve that. And certainly dark is not a reference to a skin tone in that moment. It's definitely because he saw her as his dark angel, dark being.
Right.
Because she is very, reserved and brooding.
I knew you would. I said I knew you would sort it out, but I couldn't resist.
Yeah. Nope. Hey, I can take it.
Because when you started saying dark, I thought you meant like dark personality.
No, that's what the intent. Yeah, that's what the intention is. But she is also, I mean, African American. I mean, if you could say that, because she's not the one we're talking about is not a human. But yeah.
It reminds me of Drist. Do you read Have you read any of the Salvatore books, Legend of Drist?
I have not.
Oh, I think I want you to read it now. So she very much reminded me of Drist in a way. He's a dark elf. Really, really cool.
Oh, right.
Yes.
Okay.
The Crystal Shard, Legend of Drist, R.A. Salvatore, excellent books. She reminded me a lot of him.
Oh, cool. But anyways, people, the Virtual Cafe needs to close. Okay, I have to kick you out now. Thank you. Thank you. It's been fun having you guys, but I have to kick you out now. Oh, and yes, we didn't get you your drinks. Sorry.
Well,
Yeah,
then I'm not leaving a tip then.
there you go.
Well, you should. You
And
think
I'm
of
taking the
it.
coaster with me.
We're taking, Michael, let's just take the cake. I mean, we'll leave
That's
the
true.
drinks. We'll take the cake.
I smell an Oreo cakes in the back
Yeah.
somewhere.
Okay, fine. You can have it, and I'll put pictures as well, and I'll say yes, it was Michael and Tara who took this cake away.
Well, thank you for having me on your show. And Michael, it was a pleasure.
Hey, thanks to both of you. I love just kind of sitting and chatting with other writers and people in
I
in
know
the
it's
world.
fun, isn't it?
It's awesome. And now I've discovered a new podcast. Thanks to Michael.
Are you gonna go
I'll
on
be
his
checking
podcast?
the introverted indie, I believe.
Yeah, the full title is the Introverted Indie Author Podcast. Yeah.
I will be checking. I'll be checking
I'm
you out.
spending this week. I have off from my real job, and I'm spending all week just recording new episodes and stuff. So it's pretty fun.
Oh, awesome.
Actually, you mentioned Evan Pickering earlier. I recorded like 3 hours worth of him yesterday.
Wow.
So yeah, we couldn't shut up. So that's coming soon.
Evan's great. I'll be on the lookout for that. Oh, I've got to find your podcast. Can you link to your show in the comments section below?
I can. Yeah, and you can also just find it on whatever podcast app or whatever service you use. But yeah.
Looking forward to it.
Cool. I like it when we make new friends and make new connections.
Hey, that's how we started the conversation. That's kind of what I think is most important.
Yeah.
Full circle.
Michael, where are you based?
Where am I based? I'm in New York.
Okay, so can you both do me a big
you're in
favor?
New York.
Not the city. Not the city. Just the state.
Oh, okay. So can you both do me a favor, please? Hello? Right,
Sure.
so I've
Yeah.
got, with iTunes, because I'm in the UK, I can't really see comments or reviews that are in America. But I then found this website that aggregates all reviews from all the iTunes stores. So I was able to see the reviews that are in America. Then, when I had no internet for about a week from about 2 weeks ago, and it's only come back on a couple of days. So I went on this thing. One of the first things that I did when I came back, when my internet came back, was I went to this platform to go and check what the reviews were. And I saw that on the 29th of July, no, 29th of June, there were 5 reviews that I think are a bit like trolls. So they all had 5-star reviews, but they were like, oh, look, this is a really wonderful app. And then I was like, oh yes, this is just what I'm looking for to track my mood. It's a good mood tracker. Now, I don't mind getting 5-star reviews, but I think it's going to be quite, like, if someone genuinely wanted to read reviews to see what people were saying about this show, I think it would, what's the word I'm looking for? It would be quite misleading. But because I don't actually have access to go onto the iTunes store in the US, I can't actually click to report that, oh, I'm not really sure what these people are saying, because one, their reviews are for apps, and this is a podcast, it's not an app. So can you guys look into it for me?
Sure. Yeah, I don't know what that's about. I haven't had that problem with iTunes for my show, but I did get a similar type of thing on my Amazon page for one of my books. Where it was a verified purchase, like they had bought the book. So they had actually bought the book and reviewed it, but the comment was just like out of left field. It was like something along the lines of, "This is a great story of a strong Dutch woman in World War II." I'm like, this is a fantasy novel, totally unrelated. So yeah,
Awesome. You need
I have
to
no idea
screenshot
where that even came from.
that.
And the funny thing is, I mean, as far as I can tell, they bought the book, so I mean, I don't even know what to think.
Wow.
It's still there.
So what do you think then? Because with this, because I don't know, I was very concerned about it. Like, if someone, because someone accidentally sent me an email that she was supposed to send to someone else, and she was like, oh, check out this book, it's got so much reviews. So then that got me a bit concerned, because I just thought, oh, if people are actually going to read the reviews of the show, then it might send, I don't know, it might just come across as being a bit dodgy.
I mean, I would take it with a grain of salt. People can usually, weed out the norm, the cray from the legit, but Michael, he's the blogger, so I'm gonna let him like look at it and tell you. I mean, I can tell you what's there, but I'm not quite sure. It's not my wheelhouse. You guys are the podcasters. You guys have all the know-how.
Nah.
But
I mean,
it does get weird.
if you say to leave it to not worry about it, then that's fine.
Well, I think that you guys are getting some existential.
I'm looking at your page now. Great mood tracker. Really cool app.
I know, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure why people do that. It's not like they left like 1 star and like we're bashing you.
No, that's why I said I don't mind because they've given me 5 stars and 4 stars. But if someone was actually reading it, then you would think, Okay, so the little human, she's ripped stuff out because I've hidden the cake from her, so I think I need to go and appease her now. So the little human god, she's like, slave, why are you not attending to me?
All right. Well, again, thank you for having us.
Yeah, it was a pleasure.
My pleasure, and I hope to speak to you guys again soon.
All right. Bye.
All right, bye now.